Welcome back, everyone. Today's episode marks a historic turning point in the lives of Tu Tien and Jack. From a victim trampled in the mud, Tu Tien now holds the ultimate leverage against her evil ex-mother-in-law, betrayed by the very woman she once called Mom. Tu Tien is forced to dig up her most horrifying memories to expose heinous crimes. The net of the law has tightened, and a life sentence hangs over the villain's head. But folks, the power of life and death now lies in Tu Tien's hands. Will she choose the satisfaction of revenge to make the wicked rot in prison? Or will she choose the painful path of forgiveness, a decision that will tighten the chests of millions of viewers? Don't miss this fateful moment. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications right now to join Tu Tien as she pursues the truth to the very end. Back to the main story. In Jack's small kitchen, a dim yellow light offered a fragile warmth after the stormy days. The smell of fragrant rice porridge rose up, blending with the pungent medicinal scent of fish mint. It was the smell of life, the smell of hope that Jack had craved for the last 15 days. Jack was busy at the stove, stirring the porridge, but his eyes never left Tu Tien for a second. He was afraid if he blinked, she would vanish like smoke again. Tu Tien sat leaning against the wooden chair. She was so thin. Jack's shirt hung loosely on her, swallowing her fragile frame. Seeing Jack struggling, Tu Tien forced herself to stand up. The instinct of a gentle wife made her want to help her husband, even if it was just grabbing a bowl or chopsticks. "Let me help you," she said, her voice as weak as a breath. But the moment her thin hand touched the edge of the table, tragedy struck. The world before Tu Tien's eyes suddenly spun violently. The ceiling swirled. The floor felt like it was crumbling beneath her feet. A terrifying wave of dizziness hit her, draining the last bit of energy left in her body. She swayed, grabbing at the air but catching nothing. And then, a hot metallic sensation gushed from her nose. Drip, drip, fresh red blood drops fell onto the stark white tiles, blooming like flowers of death. At first, just a few drops, but then the blood poured out uncontrollably. It flowed through Tu Tien's trembling fingers, staining the faded shirt red. Her eyes rolled back in terror, then slowly glazed over, losing focus. "Jack, I can't breathe." Those were the last words she managed to choke out before darkness swallowed her consciousness. Her body went limp like a puppet, with cut strings crashing onto the cold floor. The sound made Jack spin around, and the scene before him crushed his heart. His wife lay there motionless, blood smeared across her face, which was as white as a corpse. Jack's blood-curdling scream tore through the silent night. "Mom, help save my wife." No time to think, no time to cry. Jack scooped Tu Tien up, rushing out of the house like a wounded animal. Mother Lee ran behind, pressing a towel to her daughter-in-law's nose to stop the bleeding, but the crimson blood quickly soaked through the white fabric. The door slammed shut behind them, leaving the kitchen still smelling of the uneaten hot porridge, a reunion dinner that would remain forever incomplete. Jack's car tore through the night, shredding the thick fog. He had the pedal to the metal. The speedometer climbed to dizzying numbers. He didn't care about traffic laws anymore. He was racing against the Grim Reaper. Every passing second felt like a knife slicing into his heart. "Tu Tien, you are not allowed to sleep. Do you hear me? Open your eyes and look at me." Jack screamed in desperation as he drove. Tu Tien lay in the back seat, her head resting on Mother Lie's lap. Her breathing was intermittent, fragile as a thread in the wind. Her hands were ice cold, the chill of life slowly leaving her body. when the car screeched to a halt at the hospital entrance. Blinding white lights flooded the quiet night, cold and unforgiving. Doctors and nurses quickly took Tu Tien, rushing her inside with decisive steps. Patient has lost a lot of blood. Weak pulse. BP dropping. Prep the defibrillator. The emergency room doors slammed shut in front of Jack. The blinding red light turned on. An invisible but cruel wall now separated them. Time dragged on like torture. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Finally, the emergency room doors opened. The head doctor stepped out, beads of sweat on his forehead. He removed his mask, his face extremely serious. Jack and Mother Lai rushed forward. "Doctor, how is my wife? Is she awake?" The doctor looked at Jack with eyes full of pity. He shook his head slightly. "We've stopped the bleeding and put her on fluids. She is out of critical danger for now, but..." That word "but" made Jack's heart seize. "But we discovered a very serious problem. It's not exhaustion, and it's not physical trauma." The doctor handed Jack a blood test result covered in alarming red numbers. "Look at these levels. Her white blood cell count has spiked 50 times higher than a normal person. Her platelets have dropped severely. This is why her nosebleed wouldn't stop, and why unprovoked bruises appeared on her skin." Jack tremblingly held the paper. "What do you mean, doctor? I don't understand." The doctor took a deep breath, lowering his voice. "We suspect she has acute leukemia. In layman's terms, blood cancer." The ground seemed to crumble beneath Jack's feet. His ears rang. Cancer. His wife, a girl only 24 years old, in the prime of her life, is carrying this death sentence. Life. Carrying this death sentence. All those previous symptoms, the fatigue, the dizziness, the bruises he thought were just from bumps, turned out to be the marks of the Grim Reaper. And painfully, the psychological shock and physical torture in the deep forest over the past 15 days had triggered the cancer cells to grow at a terrifying rate. Fate truly knows how to mock the miserable. Just survived one disaster only to face another. A death sentence of blood cancer hangs over her head. While Jack is collapsing in pain out there, the darkness hasn't given up yet. The evil ex-mother-in-law, the one indirectly responsible for this tragedy, what is she plotting now that she knows her daughter-in-law is dying? Will Jack be alert enough to realize the danger lurking right inside his wife's hospital room? Will Tu Tien wake up in time to expose her mother-in-law's true face before it's too late? Ladies and gentlemen, leaving the police station gates, the late afternoon sun draped a pale, weak yellow light over Tu Tien's shoulders, but it was enough to warm her trembling soul. Jack opened the car door, carefully helping her into the passenger seat as if handling a fragile treasure. The car door closed, separating them from the noise and dust of the outside world. The space inside became silent, save for the smooth hum of the engine and the rhythmic breathing of two people who had just walked out of the eye of the storm. The car rolled on, merging into the bustling city traffic at rush hour. Streetlights began to flicker on, streaking across the windows. Tu Tien rested her head against the glass, watching the skyscrapers glide by. But her mind was drifting far away. The investigator's words still echoed in her ears like a tape on repeat. Mrs. Tui could face life imprisonment. The decision for leniency belongs to you. Life imprisonment. Those two words weighed 1,000 pounds. Tu Tien closed her eyes. In the darkness behind her eyelids, painful memories came rushing back. She remembered the stormy night she was kicked out of the house, Mrs. Tui's look of contempt, the stinging slap on her cheek, and the coldness when that woman stole her last keepsake. Hatred and resentment welled up in her throat, bitter as bile. She deserves to be punished. She deserves to pay for everything she caused. But then, the image of that woman in handcuffs, old and haggard behind prison bars, appeared. Tu Tien asked herself, would the most brutal revenge truly bring her peace? Or would it turn her into a bitter person, just like her? Beside her, Jack drove in silence. He didn't play music. He didn't talk. He understood that right now, Tu Tien needed space to face herself. He glanced over occasionally, his eyes full of worry and unconditional support. He respected her decision, whether it was to let go or to punish. Jack's silence was his greatest support. It made Tu Tien feel she wasn't alone in this internal battle. She sighed softly, a mist of breath condensing on the glass. She knew her time was running out. The monstrous disease was silently gnawing away at her body every day. Should she spend these precious last days nurturing hatred, or should she let it all go to leave this world in peace? While Tu Tien wrestled with the verdict of her conscience in a dark corner of the city, a real verdict was hanging over Mrs. Tui's head. In a dilapidated rental house, deep in a small alley where Mrs. Tui was hiding with her lover and her accomplice, hung the scar. The air in the room was thick with cigarette smoke and fear. News of the arrest warrant had spread across every newspaper. Mrs. Tui's wanted poster was plastered on electric poles. Her bank accounts were frozen. Her wealthy friends from the old days had turned their backs on her, treating her like a leper. Mrs. Tui sat huddled on a plastic chair, her hand trembling as she held a cigarette. Her once luxurious, haughty face was now gaunt, aged 10 years. Her eyes were veined with the red blood of despair and madness. Damn it! It's all because of that little brat. Because of her, I lost everything. Mrs. Tui roared, smashing the ashtray onto the floor, shattering it to pieces. Hung the scar, sat in the corner, sharpening a fruit knife, his eyes cold. Shut your mouth. What good is screaming now? The police have caught the scent. If we don't flee the city tonight, we're all rotting in jail. Mrs. Tui spun around, grabbing Hung by the collar. Flee with what money? My assets are all sealed. How do you expect me to flee on faith? Desperation had turned her into a wounded wild animal. She couldn't accept it. She refused to accept going from a noble lady to a wanted criminal skulking around like a sewer rat. And even more terrifying, a crazy idea spawned in her head. A final vicious thought before everything collapsed. I'm not going down alone. If I die, Tu Tien won't live in peace either. Mrs. Tui hissed through her teeth. What are you planning? Hung paused his sharpening. Kidnap her. Force Jack to pay a ransom. Or at least, force Tien to drop the lawsuit. If she wants to live, she has to beg for my sentence to be reduced. A daring and stupid plan was hatched in panic. Mrs. Tui wasn't sane enough to realize it was a direct path to hell. She only knew she needed a get-out-of-jail-free card, and Tu Tien was the only key. Darkness slowly engulfed the rental room, hiding the dark schemes waiting to explode. Back to Tu Tien and Jack. The car stopped in front of their familiar house. Jack turned off the engine, turning to tell Tu Tien to get out, but he froze. Tu Tien was sleeping. Or rather, she had passed out from exhaustion. Under the car's dome light, her face was deathly pale, devoid of life. Cold sweat beaded on her forehead, matting her hair against her gaunt face. Jack gently shook her shoulder. Tien, we're home. Tu Tien slowly opened her eyes. Her eyes were glazed, soulless. She tried to smile to reassure Jack, but the smile was twisted with pain. I'm so tired, Jack. As soon as she finished speaking, Tu Tien suddenly coughed violently. She covered her mouth with her hand. A violent, prolonged coughing fit shook her entire frame. Jack panicked. Honey, what's wrong? Let me get you some water. But when Tu Tien lowered her hand, Jack froze in her palm, and splattered across her pristine white shirt was blood. Fresh crimson blood standing out in a horrifying contrast. Blood! I'm bleeding again, Tu Tien whispered, staring at her hand with a heartbreaking resignation. She knew this day would come, but she didn't expect it so soon. Jack frantically grabbed some tissues, his hands trembling. It's okay. It's probably just stress. We're going to the hospital. I'm taking you right now. Tu Tien grabbed Jack's hand, shaking her head weakly. No, Jack. I want to go home. I want to lie in my own bed. I'm terrified of hospitals. Looking into his wife's pleading eyes, Jack couldn't say no. He understood that with terminal leukemia, the hospital was just a place that prolonged the agony. She wanted to find a final moment of peace in their sanctuary. Jack scooped Tu Tien up and carried her straight into the house. Her body felt weightless in his arms, so light he felt a strong gust of wind could blow her away. He laid her gently on the bed, tucked her in carefully, then slumped down onto the floor, gripping her hand tight. The room fell into silence. Only the ticking clock counted down the time. Jack watched his wife, tears falling silently. He was a successful businessman who could command storms in the marketplace, but faced with his wife's illness, he was completely helpless. Money and power had become meaningless. He would gladly trade his entire fortune for just one day of health for his wife, but heaven denied him that chance. Tu Tien watched her husband cry her heartbreaking. She reached up to wipe his tears. Don't cry. I'm still here. I've done what I needed to do. I spoke the truth. I feel very relieved now. Her words only deepened Jack's pain. Was she relieved because she fulfilled her wish, or was she preparing for her eternal departure? Just as a tragic atmosphere enveloped the room, Jack's phone rang. It was an unknown number. He wiped his tears and answered, his voice hoarse. Hello, who is it? The other end was silent for a few seconds, then a chillingly familiar voice rang out. The voice of someone cornered. Hello, precious son-in-law. Do you recognize me? It was Mrs. Tui. Jack sprang up, his face hardening, gripping the phone tight. You still dare to call me? The police are looking for you everywhere. Mrs. Tui cackled a barbaric laugh echoing in the night. I know. That's why I'm calling. I want to negotiate. I have nothing to negotiate with a murderer. Jack moved to hang up. Wait, don't you want to know the cure for your wife? Mrs. Tui screamed. Jack froze. What did you say? Tu Tien is sick, I know. But do you know why it's not natural, son? I know a secret about her health, and I know how to save her. If you want your wife to live, bring $5 billion to me, alone, right now. Jack was stunned. A secret about Tu Tien's illness. Was she blabbering? Or did she actually hold a key? Reason told him this was a trap. Mrs. Tui was a wanted fugitive. She needed money to run. She was exploiting his greatest weakness, Tu Tien. But in the desperation of a husband about to lose his wife, even a sliver of hope was enough to sway him. What if she was telling the truth? What if there was a way to save Tu Tien that he didn't know about? Fine. Where do you want to meet? Jack asked, coldly eyes flashing with rage. Tu Tian lay on the bed, vaguely hearing the conversation. She struggled to sit up, whispering, "Jack, don't go. She's tricking you." Jack turned back, placing a finger on his lips. He stroked her hair, whispering, "I know, but I have to go. I have to end this once and for all. I won't let her haunt your life anymore." Jack dialed the lead investigator, putting the phone on speaker as he whispered the plan. He would offer himself up as bait to lure the beast out of its cave. That night, Jack drove his car into the pitch-black darkness, carrying $5 billion and a rage that burned hotter than fire. But Jack didn't know that Hung the Scar wanted more than just money. He had written a much bloodier script. He had no intention of letting Jack return alive. And back at home, Tu Tian lay alone, the fever beginning to torment her body once again. She felt a terrifying sense of dread. Outside the window, another dark shadow was stealthily climbing over the fence. Mrs. Tui's plan was the classic lure the tiger out of the mountain, lure Jack away to leave the house unguarded. Their real target wasn't Jack. It was to kidnap Tu Tian right from her sickbed. The trap has been sprung. Jack is charging into the enemy's lair with a fragile hope of saving his wife. Meanwhile, Tu Tian lies gasping for breath, at home facing the Grim Reaper of disease. And now, a Grim Reaper in the flesh sneaking into her sanctuary. Will Jack realize this spectacular deception in time to turn the car around? Will Tu Tian, with her last ounce of strength, be able to fend off the attack of these desperate criminals? A night of blood and tears is about to unfold.